Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right, we are.
That's right. We are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
We are.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something.
It's
Sunday.
Sunday.
3 big days for one big episode.
Monster Truck Rally.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, they are fun.
I enjoy watching cars go around and destroy themselves.
Yeah, it is fun. Like Twisted Metal. That's a good game.
Kind of like Twisted Metal without the real life death. Mostly, if I go see something in person, I don't want to be complicit in the death of multiple people behind guns. It's just something I try to avoid in my day-to-day life.
That's a good thing to avoid. I'm glad you avoid that.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. Well, Seth, getting right into our episode, but before we do, of course, what have you been recently playing?
Recently, I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which for a while I thought was Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle, which I think it was just because of the case of the Golden Idol. And then I was just like, Golden Idol, that equals Indiana Jones in my brain. And then I'm like, no, there's a circle in there. So then I thought it was Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle. But it's not a Golden Circle. It's just a Great Circle. So it could be a circle. Who knows what it's made out of? Anyway, developed by Machine Games and published by Bethesda Softworks, and was released back December 8th of 2024, which is now, I would say, a year and change ago. I wouldn't necessarily say in January that December of the previous year was that long ago, but it was about a year ago, give or take, a full year ago. In the game, you play as Indiana Jones in 1937, and there's some ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and you're the only person that can figure it out. You start in your Indiana Jones's museum, and some big dude steals some things from you, and then you go where all Indiana Jones people go to figure out answers to questions: the Vatican.
That is a good place to go.
If you need answers to questions, the Vatican may have them. And so you violently enter the Vatican. It's like a stealth game that you beat up people with and try not to get caught. So it's kind of like plays like a little bit like Dishonored. And then you get in, and then you're in the Vatican, and then you're given a disguise of being a priest. And then it's not like Dishonored at all. Then you're just like walking around as a priest, chatting and solving mysteries for people. And then it plays like LA Noire, which is interesting. And it's got a really cool take. One of the issues that I have with the game is that it loves VRAM, apparently to the point where it has capped out cards that have like 20 gigs of VRAM. It is disgusting in regards to the love of VRAM that it has, and it's hard to make the game look good and also play well, and my computer is not that old. Like, it is, I have maybe a 2 series out of date graphics card, a decent i9 processor, and it's installed on a solid state, and I have 32 gigs of RAM. So like, I should not be having this problem, and it's apparently just a problem with the way that it uses VRAM ends up bottlenecking it. And my card has 8 gigs, which is usually sufficient in most games, but for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, it is sometimes gives it issues. So it is one of the first games that I'm actually playing with an FPS counter up on the top, because I'm trying to keep and balance that FPS up to be about 40 to 60. So just so that the game is smooth. And then I have to tweak with it, because then sometimes the game looks like butt when I do that. So that I have to like play with the graphics and constantly just tweak with them. I think I finally got to a decent setting for it though. And it's been a lot of fun. I think my favorite moment so far in the game is that Indiana Jones and his priest friend Antonio are solving a mystery together as they're looking at these photographs, these Polaroids that Indiana Jones took with a camera. And there is some Latin phrases that ends up talking about a tower that you're going to have to go and explore, and Jesus and blood and all that stuff. And Indiana Jones is like, I need blood. And the priest says, I got you covered. And then gets up, and I'm like, what is he going to do? And he goes over to a drawer And he opens that drawer and he pulls out. And I was like, is he pulling out a vial of blood from his drawer? I'm like, what is he keeping in there? And he pulls out a bottle of wine and then proceeds to bless it because he's a priest. And he turns it into the blood of Christ. And then he goes, here you go. He's like, here you go. Here's some blood of Jesus. And Indiana Jones is like, thanks. And so I thought that was fun. I think that there is some cool elements about the game, and like there are moments of the game where I'm like, this is actually a really cool game. I'm really enjoying my time in it, and I'm sad that I put it down for a while. I'm glad to have picked it back up and to continue to try and get through it. So so I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
That's awesome.
Zach.
Yes, Seth.
What have you recently been playing?
Well, Seth, good news is I beat games too sometimes, and I recently beat Outer Worlds 2. I got the bad ending, but I'm actually satisfied with the bad ending because I thought it was a very good bad ending.
Was it because your character was stupid?
Yes and no. There's a way to do the ending where things go away that makes it so that everyone kind of wins, and I did it so that everyone kind of loses.
Oh, all right. Well, you were equitable.
Yes, I was equitable. Basically, without spoiling anything, there came an option for me to do something that would have resulted in my character potentially dying, and I said, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, nice.
I really liked the ending, and I don't want to spoil it because I know you haven't gotten there yet, so I don't want to
well, I'm still salty with it too.
Yeah, I know.
Because of my 2 hours of my save game disappearing, which is frustrating, which is why I'm playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because it also saves pretty regularly.
The only frustration I had with Outer Worlds 2, I didn't have any issues like you did with the game like crashing and me losing saves. I did have an issue though where I got locked out of a companion quest line because there's a companion you can meet early on. I forget her name, but you meet her in like a facility and she's fighting Raptidons. And then you later meet her again, and she is talking to that mayor who wears the silly hat, and she's like, oh, it's probably better to just work with you versus this guy, and then she'll team up with you. So I didn't side with the mayor. I sided with his guard. I forget her name, Core. I still met the character that could become a companion, but the part where she's supposed to be able to become your companion didn't trigger for me. And I was reading that people were like, oh, I think this is intentional. I don't think it's supposed to trigger for you. But then I was reading other people say, no, this is a bug. Like it's supposed to still trigger. This is like an issue. So I got essentially locked out of that entire companion, which I mean, I don't really mind too much. I'll probably will replay the game at some point and try to do a different like spec, in which case I will choose the option that allows me to get that companion. But yeah, it would have been cool to kind of round out all the companions, but in any case I liked the companions I had, so it was fun.
Sure.
Beyond Outer Worlds 2 though, I've actually been playing Stronghold Definitive Edition. I picked it up during the sale and I really love Stronghold, and I do what I do when I play any Stronghold, which is I play the economy simulator and I don't do any of the actual combat. The economy simulator in Stronghold I think is really fun in a weird way where you just maintain a village's economy and there are 0 enemies, and all you do is you just build up your little town and you make sure that there is enough jobs for your workers, that they are happy, that they are getting enough food, and that they don't hate you. And some ways that they can hate you is if you tax them too much. Right now they are not being taxed. I'm a very charitable lord, and I give them ample amount of rations so that they can get their food. We live in a very nice society in my world where everyone's working hard for the greater good. But yeah, just a fun little I like the economy simulator. I think it kind of reminds me of almost like a roller coaster tycoon, but with medieval people, and that you're trying to just maintain everyone's happiness. The definitive edition from Firefly, I thought they did a great job with it. It's really nice looking. The remastered graphics are really nice and has some really clean visuals.
Is it in fact definitive?
It is in fact definitive, but I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of it, maybe actually playing some of the real campaign where you do have to actually do combat.
I don't have any cool strategies for Stronghold combats and how to beat them easily.
I remember when I used to play on our dad's old computer, my strategy was get a lot of it was pitch for defense, but if you weren't doing defense, it was have a lot of crossbowmen and then just rain arrows on everyone.
I always liked all the pitch and the fire. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
I liked making just walls of fire and holes.
Pitch and wolves. that you could just
Oh,
unleash.
yes.
Oh, and burning oil.
Yes, man. I wonder if you could make like a map where you're just like all wolves.
All wolves in pitch. It's just...
I may have to do that right when this episode ends.
Speaking of this episode, to get into today's episode, I was listening back to our episode we recorded last week where we talked about X-Men and decided that
X-Men.
I decided that, you know what? I mentioned that we would do an episode on Wolverine, so why not just do it now? Let's
That's
just do a follow-up episode on Wolverine, as Wolverine's a great character. Seth, do you love Wolverine?
Yeah, I like Wolverine. He is definitely not my favorite X-Man. My favorite X-Man would happen to be the X-Man from the Atari 2600, but which please don't look that up. But anyway, my favorite X-Man, I would say when I was a child, I really liked Nightcrawler the most, and I still like Nightcrawler. I think my second favorite character is also now Colossus. I really like Colossus as an X-Men. I also really like Colossus in the arcade version. Mostly because of his power. I wish that Colossus also got a series of a million video games like Wolverine did, but only Wolverine is well loved by everybody.
Right.
I do really like Hugh. I like Hugh Jackman's portrayal of him. I like him in Wolverine and Deadpool. I like Wolverine, like the story behind him. I think it gets a little weird sometimes. I think that he's kind of like the yin to the yang of Scott Summers. Like everybody loves Wolverine, and Scott Summers.
No one likes
hates,
Cyclops,
and everybody hates Cyclops. But they're both like the characters that like Marvel did the best job at trying to shove down our throats. Where like then they're also like there's also these other cool characters that will tell you nothing about, and I'm like, but I really wanted to know about the Irish bard from Ireland from like Banshee. And I just want to go on a tangent real quick about Banshee and how he's like a grizzled cop in his like first appearance. Like he's a grizzled ex-cop, but in the cartoon he was always just kind of like this random Irish guy with like glowing blonde hair and was just like, hey, how are you? And then I just remember like a core memory of my childhood is watching the episode of the X-Men when they go to the island, the Isle of Muir or whatever it is, and they meet up with Moira and Banshee just like scream flies over to them, and then they're like, this is Banshee. And then it's like, yeah, okay. Not as favorite as Juggernaut telling his life story to Spider-Man, though.
No, not as good as that. Yeah, no. I mean, personally, I like Wolverine. He's also not my favorite X-Men. I think Gambit is probably one of my favorite.
Gambit, really, yeah.
Of the X-Men. I like the suaveness, and I was watching the animated series, and I liked there's the scene where he kept getting into Rogue's car as she was trying to drive away, and she like kicks him out, and she just keeps going, and then he like times it so that he jumps a fence the moment the car drives past.
It's
lands.
It's not like a regular fence. It's like the 8-foot high stone wall that he just like falls from and ends up in her convertible.
Yeah. And then she just like pulls over, stops the car, and just walks away or flies away and just leaves him in the car. And he's like, "What I do, Shetty?
What I do, mon ami?"
Yeah. I love Gambit. I like Channing Tatum as Gambit too. I think he did a great job. But Wolverine as a character, I do enjoy. I think he's fun. He is a bit of a weird guy, and I will say I think I got a little Wolverine fatigued by the X-Men movies because a lot of at least the original 3 focused on Wolverine as kind of like the main character, and I like the X-Men as a whole. I like them doing things together. I don't like just the focus on one single X-Man, so to speak.
Yeah.
There is actually an X-Men character named X-Man. It's Nate Gray.
Oh, yes.
He's I think from the future.
Of course he is.
He's an alternate version of Cable.
That's right. Yeah. X-Man.
Yeah.
And isn't he the only one left or something?
Yes, he's the only one left.
That's why he's X-Man, the singular, because
yes.
I also really wanted to get into the Excalibur.
Oh yeah.
The British X-Men, and which Nightcrawler is part of, because there's a period of time where Nightcrawler was part of Excalibur. And that's just like the European X-Men, which is led by Captain Britain.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to Marvel, the Marvel database, it says Excalibur, and it just says members, and it says formerly Captain Britain, Brian, also Captain Britain, Betsy, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, Phoenix, and Megan. Who is Megan? Oh, she's just like some elf.
She's Captain Britain's wife.
But he's a mutant, though.
Captain Britain?
Yes. Oh, he's not. No, he's not.
He's not. Yeah, no, he's not.
So I like that his mutant powers, he's immune to his sister, who is a psychic, who is a mutant. It's Excalibur, like with a big X. So it's like an offshoot of the X-Men, and their leader is like a second-rate Captain America.
Yes.
Who I love. I love Captain Britain. I think he's great. I also think that he is a second-rate Captain America.
Oh,
I really like B teams and sometimes C teams.
Well, getting back to Wolverine, who has been on a couple of B teams, if you consider Alpha Flight a B team, which I do.
That's the Canadian team. I also like that team. Point of order, though. I don't think he wanted to be on Alpha Flight. He was forced to be on that team.
Yes. Wolverine has always been a unique character from the X-Men because he is one of the only characters in the X-Men who has had his own set of comics, has his own set of movies, has his own set of video games, and is, like, again, really primarily singled out by people. He's appeared in his own shows. He has his own enemies outside of the usual Brotherhood of Mutants, and is widely considered one of the most popular comic characters next to the likes of Batman and Spider-Man.
Yeah, he could stand on his own. He doesn't really need a franchise.
Now, the original character of Wolverine first appeared in The Incredible Hulk 180 in 1974 in a single frame, teasing his upcoming appearance in the much more important Incredible Hulk 181, which features the character going head-to-head with the Hulk, and Wendigo is there too for some reason.
That's right. I've read that issue. I read both 180 and 181. It is a strange issue. We might have talked a little bit about it in the X-Men episode that we just talked about, but these two vaguely magician-like people are trying to change Wendigo from being Wendigo to being Hulk. So they're trying to take Wendigo's conscious and put it into Hulk's conscious, and in that process, the Canadian government that has a Hulkbuster team detected that Hulk has entered the sovereign territory of Canada, and they sicked their best asset, the Wolverine, on them.
Yes. The character himself was created apparently when Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Roy Thomas had asked John Romita Sr. and Len Wein to create a Canadian superhero based on the Wolverine animal. Reportedly, one idea from Dave Cockrum had that the character was going to not be a mutant, but rather a mutated Wolverine cub that took on human form thanks to the effects of the High Evolutionary, who is a Marvel villain that does experiments on animals. This idea did not take fruition, and the character's backstory would slowly trickle out through the years. In canon, Wolverine's real name is James Howlett. He was born in the tail end of the 19th century to a wealthy family. His parents were John and Elizabeth Howlett, though it is revealed that his true father was a groundskeeper named Thomas Logan. Thomas Logan was also the father to James's half-brother, Dog Logan, who is not Sabretooth, despite what the movies will tell you. In the movies, they retcon Dog Logan to be Victor Creed, who is Sabretooth. James Howlett is a mutant. Some of his abilities include the rapid, powerful healing factor, heightened reflexes, heightened senses, and the ability to unsheath 3 dagger-like bones from each hand. James would leave home after an incident in which John and Thomas got into a fight, resulting in Thomas killing John, and then James killing Thomas with his bone claws, and then finding out that Thomas was his real dad all along. James would regret killing his true father and adopt the name Logan in memory of his father, and then go to live with the Blackfoot tribe for a bit, then join the Canadian military, fight in World War I, fight in World War II, with Captain America, and in one of the cartoons was involved in the liberation of a Nazi concentration camp that housed Magneto. And I don't know if that is part of the comics, but I do remember that happening in X-Men Evolution in a flashback.
I love X-Men Evolution. That's such a great...
It's a great show. I love that show.
It's a great show. Yeah, it's a definitely great show.
Following his time in World War II, Wolverine would settle down in Japan. He met a woman named Itsu. He would get married to Itsu. However, Itsu would be murdered by the Winter Soldier, and then Logan, in his sadness, would go to work for Team X, a Black Ops CIA unit. It was while he was working with Team X that he was kidnapped by the Canadian government for the Weapon X program, where they fused adamantium metal to his bones.
I do also want to note that Wolverine, Logan, shows up in Incredible Hulk number 81, goes, and we'll talk about this, but he shows up in Giant Size X-Men and goes up to the X-Men continuity, and there are like 8 issues written where everyone just calls him Wolverine, and the first person to call him Logan is a leprechaun.
Yeah.
And it's a leprechaun.
That's when they go to Muir Island, right?
They're at Muir Island in Banshee's castle, And the first character ever to utter Logan's name in any of the comics ever is a leprechaun it's questionable why he's even there. I still want that image of like the leprechauns carrying Nightcrawler as like a frame. If that image is a variant cover or as a cover of that issue, I think it's issue 104 or something, 105 maybe. If that issue had them carrying him as the cover, I would buy that issue and put it into a slab. In Wolverine's appearance in The Incredible Hulk 181, the character is kept mostly mysterious in his terms of origins and his true identity, with the only information being divulged that he works for the Canadian government. It was in Giant Size X-Men in 1975 that the character was officially recruited into the X-Men and became a lasting character in the series. Over a couple of pages, Professor X goes around the world recruiting all the X-Men, and there's like either 1 to 3 panels dedicated to him recruiting them, and he goes and recruits Wolverine in like 3 or 4. He's also recruited in Incredible Hulk 181, I believe. There is a point in the comic he's recruited twice. There's like his recruitment is played out in 2 different comics, and I believe it's in 181 and Giant Size, or there's a flashback to it. I think no, it's actually there's a flashback to it in another X-Men comic that was written later. In the 1980s, some of Logan's characteristics would become more defined. His personality became influenced by people like Clint Eastwood. In a solo series by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller, they portrayed him as a Ronin, building on his ability to thrive when alone. I should really try to read that. I like Frank Miller's work and like Chris Claremont's work. His character often is shown as not liking to work with the rest of the team, often going for a lone wolf approach. He has quit and joined every team multiple times, sometimes in the same issue.
There's like a drink if it happens game where if you're watching the X-Men animated series, every time Logan just goes off on his own in
on
like
his motorcycle.
Yeah, his motorcycle.
He rides off of the motorcycle with his helmet that matches his hair. He also has a short fuse, going into berserker mode whenever his anger gets the best of him. He's also a short king who gets provoked to going into a berserker rage. Also, early X-Men, they all call each other like really like they just make fun of each other. So like Colossus will call Wolverine like Short Man, and Thunderbird would call Cyclops One Eye, and they call each other like weird nicknames where they're trying to be insulting. And then beyond this though, he is incredibly protective of others, especially Jean Grey, Jubilee, and Rogue. And depending on the comic, television show, or cartoon, depends on who he's protective of. So like I feel like in the movies he's more protective of Rogue, in the cartoon he's more protective of Jubilee, and in the comics he's more protective of Jean Grey. But he does have a soft spot for like people who are vulnerable. He doesn't openly show it. He's always kind of rough, but he does come to blows, and he's very much of somebody who's like, listen, I don't like these people, but they're at least accepting of me, so like I'm gonna defend them. Like you're not allowed to pick on them because I pick on them. There's an example in the comic where somebody was trying to attack Nightcrawler, and Wolverine's like, no, you can't attack Nightcrawler, that's my guy I pick on. And so he's very much like that. Outside of being in the X-Men, Wolverine has also been part of the Canadian team Alpha Flight, as we mentioned before. He's also part of the Avengers, because everybody is, the X-Force, and even the Fantastic Four. The character has seen some major story arcs in his time. He was a key player in the Days of Future Past, the era Days of Future Past, not necessarily the movie Days of Future Past, but
right,
the
comic line.
The comic line Days of Future Past. He had a 4-issue run called Weapon X during the Age of Apocalypse storyline, played a big role in Fatal Attractions, and was the star of an alternate universe future in Old Man Logan, and got his own standalone ongoing series starting in 1988 with Wolverine #1, which was a spin-off of the Claremont Frank Miller miniseries. The character even merged with Batman in the 2-issue amalgam comics Legend of Darklaw and Darklaw Adventures. I wasn't a big fan of Old Man Logan. Maybe I have to rewatch it. The movie.
I like the movie Logan. I haven't read the comic. The comic is way more intense than the movie is.
Yeah.
The comic has like Hulk as like a cannibal, and like like a monster.
I don't know if I went into that movie with the right frame of mind, but throughout his appearances in different comics, Wolverine has picked up quite a number of villains, beyond frequently tangling with the Hulk, including a rematch in Incredible Hulk number 340, with the famous cover by Todd McFarlane featuring the Hulk reflected in Wolverine's claws. He has also gotten some rivals that frequently give him trouble. His main rival is Victor Creed, aka Sabretooth, who was a member of the Weapon X program, also has usually a pretty good stash. Like Logan, Victor is a mutant who has enhanced senses and healing factors, but is far more animalistic and feral in his appearances. Another common entry of his is Yoriko Oyama, aka Lady Deathstrike. I almost said Yoko Ono, but
yeah, Wolverine is the reason the Beatles broke up, for those who don't know.
She was also bonded to adamantine, though it manifests itself for her in an incredibly long, sharp fingernails and is a little odd. Lady Deathstrike ends up in all sorts of weird situations, and he also sometimes doesn't he sometimes like her?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I think it's like they have to team up for reasons, sort of deal.
He has also gotten on the bad side of two different Silver Samurais, arguably the bad guys who don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But Keniucha Harada and Shigin Harada, both of them I'm assuming are related, kind of like Thunderbird and Warpath, very angry Native Americans who hate the X-Men.
Wolverine himself would get his first animated adaptation in the classic episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends that Seth and I love so much, where we constantly reference,
"How you doing? Want a piece of fruit?"
In this, he was voiced by William Calloway. He would then appear in Pride of the X-Men, the pilot, voiced by Patrick Pinney, and then in X-Men the Animated Series, where he was voiced by Cal Dodd, who reprised his role for X-Men 97. The character would also just appear in other X-Men related cartoons. There's an X-Men anime featuring Wolverine. There's like a movie called Wolverine and Hulk. There's X-Men Evolution, as Seth and I talked about, which features Wolverine. He's a reoccurring character for sure. I think probably best known would be his character being brought into live action by Hugh Jackman in the year 2000 with the release of X-Men from 20th Century Fox. Let me say, Hugh Jackman is an interesting casting choice. I mean, I can't see anyone else as Wolverine because Hugh Jackman did the role so well, but like Hugh Jackman was not really an action actor. He was mostly in like romance comedies. Hugh Jackman is also like 6 feet and Wolverine is 5'3". And let me tell you, Hugh Jackman is great. Hugh Jackman is probably the best Wolverine, like next to maybe Cal Dodd's voice. Cal Dodd is probably my favorite voice of Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman is the only guy that has played him in live action, with one exception being a brief appearance in the film Deadpool Wolverine, where Wolverine is played by Henry Cavill for a split second.
Does Hugh Jackman play all the other Wolverines?
Yes.
The variants, like the Short King?
Comic accurate Short King Wolverine. He it's his head on someone else's body. He plays Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, missing the arm. He plays the classic Wolverine crucified on the giant X from the cover of some random X-Men comic.
That's actually from one of the weaker eras of X-Men too. That particular iconic cover. That's from the era right up leading to the revamp of the X-Men again in the Extinction era, which it happened between 1989 and 1991. That is issue number 251, The Uncanny X-Men, which has Wolverine on the giant X.
Yeah, but that's Hugh Jackman in that scene, crucified on the giant X. He plays the Old Man Logan in that sequence. He plays the John Byrne Wolverine fighting Hulk in that sequence. And the only exception to the rule is Henry Cavill showing up for a split second. In any case, Hugh Jackman has in many ways defined the character of Wolverine. He played the character in the first 3 X-Men movies, in a spin-off called X-Men Origins Wolverine, in another spin-off just called The Wolverine, in a third spin-off sequel alternative universe film called Logan. He also made cameo appearances in X-Men First Class. X-Men Apocalypse was basically the main character in X-Men Days of Future Past. He's also in the MCU now, appearing in Deadpool Wolverine, and widely believed to be returning for either Doomsday or Secret Wars. In fact, the only X-Men film that Hugh Jackman has not played Wolverine in, there's technically only 2, Dark Phoenix and the New Mutants movie, both of which bombed. So maybe that's why they bombed, is because there was no Hugh Jackman. Enough about Wolverine as a comic character, as a movie character, as a cartoon character. Let's talk about the games that Wolverine is in.
That's right. Wolverine has also been one of those characters that has earned himself some games just about him, beyond being being a playable character in pretty much all of the X-Men games that feature him, which we talked about in our previous episode. So if you want to listen to that, just go back one Sunday behind. He has been able to take the starring roles in a few titles. The first being Wolverine, released in 1991 for the NES, developed by Software Creations and published by everyone's favorite company, LJN. Wolverine is an action platformer that has you fighting off the forces of Magneto and Sabretooth, who have captured him and left him on an island. In a game you play as, unsurprisingly, Wolverine. You are able to jump, duck, punch, and kick. If you press the select button, you can use your claws, but they will deplete energy, making your claws go back inside. To regain energy, you gotta do what all Wolverines do and eat burgers and drink soda. You can also temporarily summon Jubilee, Psylocke, and Havoc to assist you if you find a special item, but they can't help you get off the island nor get you help, because that's not part of the problem.
What a weird bunch of characters to help you too. Like, I get Jubilee maybe.
Solid C-list characters to come get you.
Havoc? Like Cyclops' brother? What's he doing here?
Cyclops' brother, who at one point in time got into fight. He gets into fights with Scott sometimes. He's vaguely part of the X-Men. The game is notoriously bad, not only because any game that makes it so you lose energy if you use your character's defining features is just a dumb idea, because if you're Wolverine, you want to slash things with your claws, but also because the game is pretty tough. It's NES hard. Wolverine does not have any invincibility frames after being hit by an enemy, so his health will just massively deplete the moment you touch a villain.
Yes, Wolverine for the NES is basically a game where you just play as a dude who sometimes can use knives.
Yes, and is friends with Jubilee, Havoc and Psylocke. So maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's just Jubilee's friend from college or something.
Wolverine's next outing alone would be a game released for both the SNES and the Sega Genesis, Wolverine Adamantium Rage.
Oh, I think I remember the cover for this.
You also, I think you had played it as a retro rewind, though I don't think you liked it. Released in 1994, developed for the Genesis by Teeny Weeny Games, and developed for the SNES by Bit Studios. Both games feature you playing as Wolverine, and they both feature fairly similar gameplay. However, the stories in both games are a little different.
But the cover is the same.
Yes, the cover is the same.
And it's, the same title, the same cover, the same art, and it's Wolverine's face open and mad and him pulling up his claws.
So the plot of the Genesis game is that Wolverine decides he's going to go on a quest to learn more about the Weapon X program, much to the frustration of Professor Xavier, who tells him, don't do this. When he arrives at a Weapon X facility, he immediately encounters Wendigo and has to fight him. You later travel to different locations, such as a jungle, where you encounter various different enemies like Lady Deathstrike and Sabretooth. Ultimately, you find out that Black King, aka Shinobi Shaw, had placed a hit out on Wolverine, and you must confront him, and also Trevor Fitzroy, who is a magic man, who for some reason just shows up at the end. In the SNES version, the same story beat of Shaw placing a contract on Wolverine's life is kept, but the story is slightly different. In the game, Wolverine travels first to Canada, then to Japan, where you learn more about his life. You encounter Lady Deathstrike, but also Bloodscream, Geist, Cyber, and Selene, and you learn in the end that the person who actually put out the contract on you was the Great Beast, who is the leader of the criminal organization The Hand, which is the Hand is in fact a ninja criminal organization that inspired the Foot from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was just pulling up some research on Shinobi Shaw because I was like, oh, who is this Shinobi Shaw? Who is why you say he's the Black King?
That's what it showed up when I looked him up.
No, Sebastian Shaw is the Black King.
Shinobi Shinobi Shaw has also been the Black King.
Oh, he has been the Black King. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
I just like the background of Shinobi Shaw. Apparently Shinobi Shaw's mom really liked Sebastian Shaw and also Harry Leland, who are both members of the Hellfire Club.
Yes.
And she got pregnant, and Sebastian, who the world revolves around Sebastian, just assumed that it was his child. And I don't know if he is.
I'm like reading this one just blurb where it says, during his childhood, Shinobi sometimes attended the Hellfire Club parties where he got acquainted with Warring Worthington III, who later became Angel.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I like at the very bottom of that, the line, Shinobi was again resurrected. which means he has been killed and resurrected a previous time before again being resurrected.
What a good character. The game Wolverine Adamantium's Rage is an action platformer. You control Wolverine, battle through various enemies. In the SNES version, there's a set number of enemies that need to be destroyed before you enter a new area. Both games also feature a regenerating health bar, which is very uncommon for a Super Nintendo or Genesis game. There is a time limit in both games, and if it expires, you are killed by LCD, who is an android member of the Reavers.
Oh, and the Reavers are the ones who put Wolverine on the cross in issue 251.
Yes. They're like weird techno people.
They have tanks for bodies sometimes.
Yes. Both the SNES and the Genesis version had mixed reviews. EGM gave the SNES version a 6.2 out of 10 and the Genesis version a 4.25 out of 10. The main issue came down to the controls. EGM said the controls were bad and didn't feel that any of the rest of the game really made up for this. Some reviewers, however, such as those from GamePro, were far more positive, praising the game's visuals and action and saying it was a great comic book adaptation. Wolverine would continue to stay angry in X-Men Wolverine's Rage for the Game Boy Color, developed by Digital Eclipse and released by Activision in 2001. Wolverine's Rage is a fairly straightforward side-scrolling action game where you fight different enemies who want to kill you. Like Adamantium Rage, your health regenerates over time, which is nice. Again, it makes sense because Wolverine does have a healing factor, so it's nice that his health regenerates in games that feature him, except for the Wolverine game for the NES, which was the first game to feature him, and he died a lot. The plot of Wolverine's Rage involves Lady Deathstrike developing a weapon that can melt adamantium, and Wolverine has to fight her, and also he fights Cyber and Sabretooth. That also received mixed reviews. Allgame gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, Nintendo Power also gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, and GameSpot gave it a 5.4 out of 10.
When the movies hit the screen, it made sense that the games would start to be inspired by them. However, X2 Wolverine's Revenge is fairly unique for a movie adaptation in that it has nothing to do with the movie X2, beyond the fact that both feature Wolverine and have Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. In X2 Wolverine's Revenge, which was developed by a variety of different developers for different versions released on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, Game Boy Advance, Xbox, PC, and Mac OS, the game was published in 2003 by Activision, at least for a majority of these releases, with Asprey publishing the Mac version. I actually owned X2 Wolverine's Revenge. The plot starts with a flashback showing when Wolverine was kidnapped by the Canadian Secret Service and put into the Weapon X program. It's revealed that all Weapon X subjects have a dormant virus implanted in them called the Shiva strain, which it will kill them. However, it's unclear if or when Wolverines will start to work because of his healing factor, which I feel like the scientists at Weapon X should have figured out. When, like, getting this person and being like, oh, he's got a healing factor, which is evident when you have somebody in your care. In present day, Wolverine finds out that the Shiva strain will start to take effect in 2 days and will kill him. Professor X sends Logan to find an antidote.
I just like that in the game, Wolverine is, like, telling the story about this whole Shiva strain thing.
Yes.
To Beast and Professor X. And then Beast is like, oh, Wolverine, you're going to die in 2 days as of today, coincidentally, after you told us this story. And Professor X is like, oh, it's terrible. You better go find the antidote, buddy.
Yeah, we're not going to help you, but you got to go. Because he's like, we don't want that. On his way to the Weapon X facility, Wolverine's plane is shot down. He encounters who else but Wendigo.
Wendigo!
Because apparently, whenever you need a bad guy, Wendigo's around. I mean, arguably he's somewhere in the woods, and that's where Wendigo lives. There's not a lot of woods in the world or anything. He also gets captured by guards, gets sent to a mutant detention center, fights Sabretooth, and later, while at the detention center called the Void, Sabretooth releases, of course, the usual suspects being Magneto, Juggernaut, and of course, our favorite, Omega Red.
I love Omega Red.
the Russian that has tentacles that vampire, like, suck your blood or something. Like,
yeah.
He's like Doc Ock if Doc Ock was gross. The game makes numerous references to events that do not happen in the movies, such as Wolverine having the adamantine removed from his skeleton by Magneto in Fatal Attractions, a deleted scene in the game that features Spider-Man, who is not in any of the X-Men movies, as the Spider-Man films were by Sony at the time, and the X-Men films at this time were Fox. The gameplay is a a mix of action and stealth. You can use your adamantine claws, of course, as well as do other fighting attacks like punching or kicking. You can earn bonuses by stunning enemies and throwing them at other enemies. Wolverine has heightened senses that allow you to see nearby enemies, their footprints, scent trails, and lasers. There is also a berserker mode where if you take damage, your rage meter will increase. There are unlockable costumes based on different comic appearances of Wolverine and his movie appearance. The game has mixed reviews on release. Nintendo Power gave the Game Boy Advance version a 3.9 out of 5, the GameCube version a 3.7 out of 5, the PC Gamer gave the PC version a 70%, and Entertainment Weekly gave the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox version a C-.
It's just an interesting game to me because if you look at the cover of the game, you would naturally assume that it is a adaptation of the movie X2 because it is called X2 and features Hugh Jackman on the cover. However, Hugh Jackman doesn't voice Wolverine. Mark Hamill voices Wolverine in the game, and the design of Wolverine is based more on the comics. And also, characters who aren't in the movie show up, like Wendigo and Omega Red.
Yep, I definitely owned this game.
I remember you had this game. I think I remember you playing, because I think at the opening scene, you play through him escaping the Weapon X facility, and he's like kind of naked. He's wearing like shorts, but
yeah,
it's
he's wearing
like
his
going.
Weapon X outfit.
I remember that sequence, but I don't remember anything else in the game.
Yeah, the escape from the Weapon X facility and Sabretooth fight. I actually don't know if I got that far in this game. I feel like apparently you get turret controls at one point in time when you return to Weapon X and fight Sabretooth a second time. You kick over like guns and start shooting people. I'm watching someone play through, like I'm just tossing through the video, and at least multiple times that I've like clicked through, Wolverine's piloting a turret and shooting guns. The game is very difficult, and so I could imagine that I didn't get past the early parts of it.
And Wolverine's last solo game would be another movie adaptation, though this one followed the film much closer, X-Men Origins Wolverine, which the game released in 2009 by Raven Software, published by Activision. Based on the film of the same name, the game follows the beats of the movie pretty beat for beat. The plot of the movie and the game it's mostly a prequel to the X-Men films, following Wolverine's time with Team X, and the Team X members consist of John Wraith, Nord, Wade Wilson, and Victor Creed, who is revealed to be Wolverine's half-brother in the movie. He's kind of a retcon for the character of Dog Logan, who is Wolverine's actual half-brother from the comics. The team gets disbanded after Wolverine turns on his teammates, who are told to kill innocent villagers, and then Wolverine goes to live in Canada with his girlfriend, though then Sabretooth shows up and kills his girlfriend, and so on and so on and so on. At the end of the movie and the game, you have to fight a genetically altered version of Wade Wilson, who is not called Deadpool. He is called Weapon 11, and his mouth is closed, and he shoots Cyclops' lasers, and he's kind of naked, and he's probably the worst version of Deadpool that has ever existed.
Oh, yeah. I was doing some research on the side here, and apparently Claremont, originally as he was writing Wolverine, wanted Sabretooth to be Wolverine's dad.
Yeah, I was reading that too.
And that it would be like that no matter what, that Wolverine could never get one over on his old man. But they never pulled that through, and Sabretooth is not Wolverine's dad. They were friends or buddies, or at least test subject friends.
We should get like unfiltered Chris Claremont X-Men run. They should give him like a 20 comic run where he can just go as crazy as he wants with his characters and his ideas. Anyway, X-Men Origins Wolverine is a third-person action game where you fight bad guys as Wolverine. You got your claws. There is a version of the game called the Uncaged Edition, which adds more blood and gore. This version is more popular than the non-bloody version. The game actually received pretty negative reviews on release, though the Uncaged version has much better reviews. For example, IGN gave the less violent PS2 version a 4.5 out of 10 and gave the Uncaged version a 7.8 out of 10. So the Uncaged version, I guess, is the version to play. The game has been called a fairly good video game adaptation of a movie, albeit for a pretty bad movie. And beyond that, the only really thing with Wolverine Wolverine is that he is going to be in an upcoming game, slated for sometime either this or next year, I think, being developed by the team that brought us the Marvel Spider-Man games for the PS4, PS5. They are doing Marvel Wolverine, and reportedly they are working on Marvel X-Men. I look forward to Marvel Wolverine. It looks like it's going to be a pretty fun game. It'll be nice to see him as a playable character again, and hopefully they let him use his claws and it doesn't drain his energy and he doesn't get stun locked by bad guys.
But if he does, we'll talk about it in 10 years.
That's right, at least. Now, to get into our retro rewind, Seth had me play a game called First Person Pinball for MS-DOS. I have a question. Do you like pinball?
Yeah.
Do you like playing pinball on your computer?
Yeah.
If you answered yes to either of these questions, then don't play first-person pinball. It is a bad game. It was developed in 1989 by Tynesoft, and it's really bad. In fact, my 1970s Atari pinball Pong machine plays pinball more accurately than this game did. In first-person pinball, the ball just kind of floats around and has a mind of its own. Sometimes it's going down, and then it just takes a little curve and goes a different direction.
Is it first person?
In fact, the first-person element, I think, is referring to you have a picture-in-picture third-person perspective of the ball moving through the play area.
Oh,
so
that's
it's
cool.
kind of like what the ball would be seeing if you were directly behind the ball, which is not first-person, but I guess it is kind of first-person.
But it could be the first-person view of the person directly behind the ball.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first-person view of someone tailgating a pinball.
That's pretty sweet. I picked this game because I felt like if you could only play from the perspective of the ball, it would be really disorienting.
I feel like that would have been a better game than this game. The game did glitch at the very beginning, and my ball did get stuck in one of the point multipliers for a solid 5 minutes straight.
You get a lot of points.
In fact, I was like looking at my phone as it was still going, and I was like, this is still going. I should take a video of this and send this to Seth. And as I was about to take a video, it started to work properly again, and I was like, oh man. But it was bad, and I do not think it holds up. Next week, Seth, you can play Magus for MS-DOS.
Great, thanks. Zach had me play Yes, Prime Minister, the computer game, developed by Oxford Digital Enterprises and published by Mosaic Publishing and released in 1987 in Europe for the Amstrad CPC, BBC Micro, Commodore 64, MS-DOS, and ZX Spectrum. It's a text adventure where you play as the Prime Minister, Jim Hacker, and you have to get your approval rating over 50% in 5 days, or else you lose. You have to answer questions correctly, which I didn't really understand was the premise of the game. So I just started answering questions sillily, and the game would say that I was wrong. It did really like my idea for a slogan, which was something like "I'm a hacker" or something like that, and because the character's name is Jim Hacker. But then the game would be like, do we want to print up T-shirts for the youth vote? And I was like, yes. And they said, no, that's a stupid idea. I'm like, well, why'd you give me the option? And every time that they gave me an option, I usually went with the silliest, and they were always really mad. They were like, how do we want to put this on for a campaign trail? And I was like, a hovercraft. And they were like, no, that's a stupid idea. And I was like, well, then why was that an option to pick from? I think you're supposed to pick the things that are faithful adaptation to the television. I think you're supposed to select the stuff that happens in the TV show. But I never watched the show because it came out in 1980 and ran from till 1988 in England. Our father really likes the show, the classic dad there. So he's probably already looking up how to play Yes, Prime Minister. I really can't say whether or not it was a faithful adaptation, but the people who played it at that time did. It was critically acclaimed when it came out, with the two main complaints being that it was kind of short and it was kind of expensive because the initial run of the game was £14.95 in 1987, which was too expensive for the people. They thought when it was released for $2.99, that was appropriate. So it was a game that was a little bit short, and people who like the show like the game. So if you like political satire from the 1980 to 1988s, specifically the show Yes, Minister, then you may think that the story and the game ultimately holds up. I don't really think it does. I think there are better adventure games that are out there, better text adventure games that are out there. And so I'm going to say no. Next week, Zach, you can play Fox Ranger 3, The Last Revelation for MS-DOS.
Great, I will. Well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. If you have any memories of playing any of the Wolverine games or any thoughts on Wolverine, send us an email to classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. We're available wherever podcasts can be found, be it Podbean, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. We're available on YouTube. Like and subscribe. We're available on social media, Classic Gaming Brothers or CG Brothers Pod. We're also available on Patreon. And feel free to follow us on Patreon. You can follow us actually for free. You don't need to subscribe. If you want to use Patreon as your podcast listening application, it is an option, as all of our episodes are fed into the Patreon system. And all the links will be below in the description. Seth, am I forgetting anything?
Did you say stuff about liking and subscribing on YouTube?
I did.
Well then, don't play games like my brother.
Don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's
right.